Hi, and welcome back to Don't Just Cook. Well, this is another part of my series. I'm preparing for my pre-Thanksgiving Friendsgiving dinner tonight. We have a couple of our friends coming over, so it'll be a total of 6 of us tonight. And for this dinner, I'm doing a little twist on all of the classics. So for dessert, which is what we're gonna make right now, I am doing a Basque cheesecake, but not just a regular Basque cheesecake. I'm doing a pumpkin Basque cheesecake. You know, everybody loves pumpkin pie. Well, I'll take that back. Not everybody loves pumpkin pie. I do. But I know like Sean, my partner, he doesn't like pumpkin pie. So, and let's face it, between now and Christmas, you're gonna be coming face to face with pumpkin pies and pumpkin bars and pumpkin everything. But I bet you won't be running into too many pumpkin Basque cheesecakes. So that's what we're gonna do next. So let's go ahead and get started. Have all of my ingredients here. Our classic cream cheese and eggs have been brought to room temperature. We've got some pumpkin puree, our sugar, some heavy cream, flour, vanilla, ginger and cinnamon, a little bit of salt. I've already oiled my baking sheet and fit it with some parchment paper. I lined the bottom with some parchment paper and then I put 2 sheets inside. If you notice, it's all wrinkly and crumbly. This helps it kind of mold to the sides of the pan a little bit better, so you don't get as many like folds and creases in the outside of your Basque cheesecake. We have an extra little sugar to put on top to really get that beautiful brulee caramelization to the outside of this cheesecake. If you're not familiar with Basque cheesecake, it was born in the northern region of Spain in the Basque country. The cheesecake itself is cooked at a higher temperature than a regular cheesecake, so the outside gets a little, for lack of better terms, burned or bruleed. So it has this really toasty, caramelized outside. Think of like a creme brulee when they singe the sugar on the top of a creme brulee. Think of the entire outside of this cheesecake made that way. There's no crust to this cheesecake. It's just that charred outside that kind of holds it all together, and then the middle is slightly raw and tender and just rich and creamy and velvety and silky, and you've got the flavors of the cream cheese and the vanilla in there and the seasons, and then adding that little bit of pumpkin, it's just going to take it to a whole another level. So I gotta stop talking about it. I can keep talking about it. I love a Basque cheesecake. I will say I have never had a pumpkin Basque cheesecake, and I've only made Basque cheesecake myself once. So let's do it, Dalé, and pray for the best.
All right, let's make this Basque cheesecake. As with all baking, exact measurements is your best friend. Baking is a science mixed with art. So follow your recipes, true, and you should not have an issue. So first you want to let your cream cheese come to room temperature and your eggs as well. And you're going to cream that cream cheese with your sugar first. And as you know, you've heard it from me, and I'm sure you've heard it from other bakers and cooks as well, scraping down your bowl is so important. You want to make sure all of your ingredients get well incorporated, that there's nothing stuck to the sides and stuck to the bottom that's going to throw things off or add a weird texture or not blend well. So scraping down is important. You'll see here, I'm going to do it about 2 or 3 times before we add in the additional ingredients. We are going to whip that cream cheese with those sugars until it is smooth and creamy and beautifully textured. And now we're going to start adding in those eggs. You want to add your eggs in one at a time. Again, making sure everything is well incorporated. And that's what's going to give you a fluffy, beautiful texture to this Basque cheesecake. Again, here we go. Let's scrape it down. Can never go wrong. Now it's time to add that secret ingredient, the pumpkin. We're going to add this in little a bit at a time to make sure it's blended well. And yes, you guessed it, once it's all in there, we're going to do another scrape down. I knew you saw it coming, and there it is. So we are going to continue with our wet ingredients. Now that we have this going and everything's starting to blend well, we're going to add in our vanilla extract, and then we're going to add in our cream and make sure this is whipped together beautifully. Once more, we're scraping it down. I know you're probably tired of hearing it, but trust me, you will love me for reminding you of this. Now we can add our dry ingredients, which is our salt, our seasonings, a little cinnamon in there. And we're going to let this mix very, very well. And then we're actually going to stop the mixer. And yes, we're going to scrape it down one more time before we go ahead and sift in the flour. This is a small amount of flour that we're going to be adding to this beautiful golden batter. Look at that batter. It's the most beautiful shade of gold, and it's silky and smooth. There is no lumps from the cream cheese because we let everything come to room temperature together. By sifting in the flour, that's going to ensure that we don't have any weird pockets of flour in this cheesecake. The flour's in there to give us a little binding, to help aid in that fluff and to help hold everything together. A Basque cheesecake, again, is crustless. There's no crust on the bottom. There's no crust on the sides. It's that cooking it at a higher temperature than normal and letting the outside cook more so and faster than the inside is what gives you that beautiful caramelization on the outside, that toasty taste that's going to hold it all in. And then the center of this cheesecake is going to be so silky, smooth, and creamy. Don't forget your 2 sheets of parchment paper that are oiled in between and oiled against the pan. You want to do the 2 sheets to make sure it completely comes over your spring form pan. I think in the video earlier I said the wrong type of pan, but it is a spring form pan that you want to use. I actually used 3 pieces of parchment paper, 1 on the bottom before I locked in the spring form, oiled it, and then I layered in my other 2 sheets. As I said before, crinkling it up before you fold it in there really helps it mold to the size of your springform pan, so you don't get these really big, deep dents from the folds. And it's easier to remove as well because the cake is not going to bake into the pockets of parchment paper. I like to give it a little counterclockwise spin. This helps to release all the air bubbles and make sure that it's nice and even. Final touch, putting the granulated sugar right on top of the batter. We have the oven preheating at 425, and this is going to go in for about an hour, maybe an hour, 10 minutes or so. It is going to look like it's getting really brown and it's getting really burnt, but you have to trust the process. The edges should be firm and the middle should be a little jiggly. So, I mean, it smells good. You know me, I love my smells. So we're gonna get this in the oven. We'll check on it about halfway through, and fingers crossed, it's gonna come out as beautiful and as delicious as we hope. Hi, well, we're still at it. We are getting ready for this dinner party. So next up is the roasted butternut squash soup. So you saw in the video earlier how I roasted the butternut squash, and I did add a sweet potato to that. Here we have some chicken broth, that onion and garlic that we already chopped up to save ourselves some time. We have a little bit of honey, butter. Speaking of thyme, we have some thyme and bay leaf. And then we're gonna do some fresh ground nutmeg and a little bit of cream. So first thing we gotta do is scoop out all this flesh from these butternut squash and get those onions sauteed. And then everything else just gets dumped in, and a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, and we're gonna have a beautiful, delicious soup to serve as an appetizer. Last piece. Look how nice everything just scoops out. I'm just using a tablespoon, and look how just easily that scoops out right into our bowl. It's got a beautiful natural caramelization on it from the natural sugars that are in the butternut squash and in that sweet potato.
Perfect. And like I said, this recipe could be done with acorn squash. It could even be done with pumpkin, whatever your favorite, gourd is for the season. Go ahead and use it.
Now that we have all of our ingredients prepared, it's time to get cooking. So the first thing we're going to do is to saute the onions and that little bit of garlic in our butter. Of course, you always want to add your seasoning in every step. Don't wait to the last step of a food item to add your seasoning. If you add your seasonings, your salts, your peppers, and things as you go, you're going to get more flavor. Now that the onions have started to become a little translucent, we're going to add in our thyme, and we're going to add in our bay leaf, and we're going to let this kind of sizzle a little bit together to really bring out the flavors. Now you want the onions to become translucent but not brown. Now that we're there, we can add in our squash. Again, this is roasted butternut squash and 1 roasted sweet potato. We're going to let this cook for a couple of minutes, stirring it around, making sure all of those pieces of those squash start to absorb the flavors of the onion and garlic. And here we go again, adding in that salt and pepper. It's season as you go. Don't just wait till the end. Once this is cooked for a few minutes, we are going to be able to add our broth to this. And that's what it's going to start liquefying and make this into what is going to start resemble that soup. But we are going to be pureeing this soup. We're not going to be leaving it chunky like this. And that's what's going to give us a beautiful bowl of golden goodness. Now that everything's in there, good to go, we are going to let this simmer for, probably about 10, 20, maybe 30 minutes, just low and slow. Let it simmer. Let those flavors come to life.
All right. So next up is the stuffing or dressing, depending on what you call it. The general consensus is if you're just making it as a side dish, it's dressing. If you're making it to put inside the bird, it's stuffing. So that's the variation of the difference. I mean, really and truly, is there that much of a difference? It's bread, butter, some flavoring, and it's baked and it's delicious. It's one of my favorite parts of an entire Thanksgiving dinner. And I try to be good about it and only eat it during Thanksgiving because it's loaded with calories and carbs and everything, but it's so yummy. Because I'm not actually roasting a turkey and I don't have all those turkey drippings and all that goodness to go into the broth, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and kind of pre-season my broth. So I'm going to put this in a stock pot, add the broth in there, and I'm going to add the seasonings that you would typically use for your bird. So I'm going to let that simmer for a little bit to get the flavor going. Then we'll be ready to start assembling our dressing or stuffing. I'm actually using my mother's recipe, Miss Gilda, but through the years, I've tweaked it a little bit. I'm using fresh French bread that I let sit out overnight to get it to stale up a little bit. She typically uses just basic like white bread, but I use her original recipe here. We have lots of onion and celery. I always add a little bit of garlic and a little bit of carrot. She doesn't do that. I like the little bit of sweetness that the carrot gives and that little bit of herby spiciness that the garlic gives. So that's my take on it. So let's go ahead and get that broth seasoned so we could start making this dressing. Okay, we got almost all the bread hand torn. When I was a kid, this is, I would love to help my mother. And when I was too young to work a knife yet, this was my job, was to help tear up all the bread. And then once I learned how to use a knife, which was probably like 10, 11 years old when I started helping my mother in the kitchen, she put me to chop the celery and onions. I hated chopping the onions. I still do. You'll see in the video where I'm just so sensitive to onions still. So what we're going to do, speaking of the onions, we're going to start sauteing the onion, celery, and carrots in butter just till they become translucent. Then we'll add the pieces of bread and gradually pour that broth that's on the stove right now, simmering and getting a little extra flavor to it. Then we'll dump it into a pan, season it, and pop it into the oven. So let's go and get this finished.
Let's check in on our soup and see how it's going. It's bubbling beautifully. I wish you could smell it. You know me, I love my smells. So now it is time to remove the bay leaf. Give it a good stir, and now we're going to stir in the honey. The honey just adds that warm sweetness to the whole pot. To make sure that our dressing has beautiful flavor, I am infusing the chicken broth with my herbs. And now we are going to saute half of the onion, the garlic, the celery, and the carrots in one stick of butter. We're going to add some salt and pepper to this. The salt helps release the fluid from the onions and the celery, gets everything going. And once we start to see the onions and the vegetables become tender and a little translucent is where we're going to start adding in those torn pieces of bread. And we're going to put them in there little bits at a time and kind of stir them around and let them absorb that butter and those juices from the onions and the celery that are coming to life. Just let it kind of soak everything up, tossing it around. Trust me, I'm actually stirring it a lot more gently than it looks here, but I sped up the video because you don't want to watch this for the full length of time. Once we got it all soaked up, we're going to add our broth in a little bit. You want the pieces of bread to be moist, but not wet. There's two types of dressing nobody likes. One that's overly soggy and mushy, or one that's too dry and crumbly. So you want to get that balance just right. You want to just eyeball it. And then once everything is well incorporated and absorbed, we're going to go ahead and dump it into this foil pan that I have here on the side. And then we're going to repeat this process one more time with the remaining onion, celery, carrot, and garlic mixture, and another stick of butter, and the rest of that broth. And once everything is in the pan and good to go, we will be ready to put this into the oven.
Okay, our dressing is now ready to go into the oven. Did it in 2 batches in this frying pan. So now we're going to add a couple of pats of butter. We're going to do some fresh herbs on top to make it really pretty and green and give a little bit more flavor infusion. And of course, a little bit of salt and pepper. We're going to cover it with foil, bake it at 350 for about 20-30 minutes. Remove the foil and then let it bake for another 15-20 minutes until the top is just nice and golden brown and a little crunchy right on the top. So let's finish that up and get that in the oven and go. You know, I'm adding the pats of butter because, like I always say, you know it, you've heard me say it, everything's better with butter. So a few pats of butter right on top will make this so amazing. Yummy and delicious. What people love a lot about my mother's recipe for this stuffing is that it's not overly flavorful. It's not overly seasoned. It doesn't have any of the like livers and gizzards and all that kind of stuff in there. So it doesn't clash with all the other flavors of the food. Because let's face it, there's so many different things that you're eating when you're having a Christmas get together or a Thanksgiving get together. This is just kind of buttery. You know, you have the onions and celery and stuff in there, but it doesn't clash with anything. It's just the perfect accompaniment to everything that's on your plate. So we've got the pats of butter. We'll add a little salt. A little cracked pepper. I love this rainbow pepper. We'll add some of the thyme. Just tear it, kind of shred it around. Let those greens. I don't like the stems though, so try to do mostly just the leaves. Unless the stems are really green and tender, that's fine. But when they're brown and hard, you don't want those in there. Nobody wants to bite into that. So I'm just going to lay the sage right in the middle on top. I'm going to go ahead and pull some leaves off from the rosemary to get those kind of sprigged around in there as well. It smells so good. And that's a pretty one, so
We'll lay that one on top next to the sage. Maybe we'll add a branch or two of the thyme. And a few more sprigs of rosemary. And voila. There we go. Like I said, I'm gonna cover this with foil, pop it into the oven, and wait to see when it comes out. Well, it's been a very busy day in the kitchen for me, but we're in the home stretch. So my next is our side dish, and that is potatoes. We're gonna do potatoes au gratin the French way, which is the Dauphinoise. So that means they're sliced so thin, paper thin slice. And I'm gonna try and do that. I'm not really good at slicing potatoes that thin, but bear with me. But the trick is to slice them as thin as possible, stack them beautifully, either in a pie dish or a baking tray, whatever you have. And then you layer them with some cream and some milk, butter, herbs and spices. I'm gonna use a little bit of herbs de Provence, some thyme, some rosemary, and some bay leaf. I think it'll be the perfect accompaniment to everything that we have going on today. But I gotta hurry up and get these in the oven and get going, because then I have to make the final masterpiece after this. What's gonna give these potatoes their amazing flavor is this mixture right here. We have heavy cream, we have milk, we have herbs de Provence, we have some rosemary, we have some thyme, and we have some bay leaf, and another stick of butter right down in there. And we are going to let this simmer very low, just long enough for all those flavors to infuse as we slice our potatoes really thin and stack them and organize them beautifully into your baking dish. Then we are going to strain that mixture and pour it right over these potatoes. And these are just going to be so rich, so creamy, and absolutely delicious. Before this goes into the oven, we're going to add a little bit more fresh thyme right to the top, and a little bit more of the herbs de Provence, which I did pick up in Provence this year. If you're going to use the herbs, you might as well get them at their source. Gonna cover this up with some foil, pop it into the oven and let it roast. Once it's been in there for a little while and everything is bubbling and tender, we're gonna take it out of the oven and we're going to add some shredded cheese.
Okay, now our soup is ready to puree. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it in small batches in the blender at a time. And then once it's all blended and pureed in there, we're gonna rinse out the pot, give it a nice, kind of clean it out a little bit, and then we're gonna return the soup back to the pot. So I'm gonna just use a ladle to ladle it into my blender. I've already removed the bay leaves because nobody wants that ground up into their soup. Should be a good amount there. And we did let the soup cool for a little bit before we do this, because it'll explode and make a mess if you don't. We're just gonna go to puree. Looks good. Now we can add a little bit more. This soup is so good, so yummy, hearty, delicious. And really, if you think about it, it's super healthy. I mean, just lots and lots of butternut squash and that little bit of sweet potato I added to it, loaded with nutrients and vitamins and fiber that are so good for you. And you remember, anything colorful is usually good for you. Oh, so beautiful and golden. All right, those last couple of drops in the bottom of the pot. And now for this last puree, I'm gonna let it go a little bit longer. Now that we have a big carafe of liquid gold, we're gonna go ahead and clean this pot, and then we'll add in our cream and our nutmeg, and then we'll put it back in, we'll cover it, and let it just stay nice and warm until we're ready to serve. Okay, now that we've returned the soup back to the pot, you can see that. Look how beautiful and golden that is, so yummy. We're gonna stir in the heavy cream. Get it all. Look at that. How beautiful and yummy is that? And now we'll ground in the nutmeg. Want about 1/4 of a teaspoon of the ground nutmeg. And then I like to add just a pinch of pumpkin pie seasoning. So that has your nutmeg, your cinnamon, and all that in there. Just kind of brings it all home. Look at that. Now, when I serve this, I like to serve it with a drizzle of olive oil right on top, and then some toasted pumpkin seeds. But you could top it with some pomegranate is really nice, little kernels of pomegranate, some nuts. You can add, a few sprinkles of some fresh thyme to the top. Garnish it any way you like. It's absolutely delicious either way. Let's give it a taste, shall we? Oh, it's even better than I remember. So I haven't made it in a couple of years. I used to make it almost every year. And yeah, it's really, really good. Can't wait till my guests get here and get to try this, because I bet they've never had this before. Okay, we're in the home stretch. It is now time to start assembling the star of our show, and that is going to be a turkey Wellington. As you know, we've been brining and marinating our turkey breast fillets. We have some of the stuffing that we made, or the dressing. In this case, I think we could call it stuffing, set aside, and that cranberry sauce that we made, and some puff pastry. We're gonna layer all this together, roll it up, and bake it in the oven, and fingers crossed, it will be absolutely beautiful to look at and delicious to eat. So let's go ahead and get this started, because time is running out. Okay, we're ready to start. I took the turkey breasts out of the brine and dried them off with some paper towels. I washed and trimmed up some asparagus. And like I said, we have our stuffing and our cranberry sauce here, as well as our pastry puff. So the first thing I want to do is I want to thin these breast fillets out. So I'm going to lay them between parchment paper and use my rolling pin to kind of like smash them and then flatten them so they can give us a better roll, so they won't be so thick and they'll cook off more evenly. So we'll lay those in there, discard this, and wash my hands. And here we go. Now we can go a little thinner. Much better. I'm going to clean up our workspace and get the pastry dough rolled out. Lightly dusted my work surface. We have one of our puff pastry sheets here. Flour my pin a little bit. And we're just going to gently roll this out to eliminate some of those creases and to give us a little bit more workspace with this sheet. And here's where you can get as creative as you like, as decorative as you like. This is my first time making it, so bear with me. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take some of the dressing, or in this case, stuffing.
And we're gonna layer a thin layer of that on the pastry dough, the puff pastry. Again, this is another option. There's so many different ways you could layer it. You can add mashed potatoes if you wanted to. You could do the more classic traditional like mushrooms. Sean hates mushrooms, so I didn't even dare try to do a mushroom filling. You could do a cranberry and walnut filling. So I'm gonna do this thin layer of the dressing, and then we're gonna do a thin layer of the cranberry. Okay, we have our dressing down, we have our cranberry down. So now we are going to take one of these turkey breasts. There we go. And we're gonna lay that down right in the center. We're gonna take a couple spears of asparagus. Just like that, kind of stagger them a little bit. So no matter where you cut them, you'll end up with a couple flowers as well as a couple of stems. And then we'll do some salt and pepper. Okay, we got everything going. We seasoned the asparagus and the turkey breast with salt and pepper. We got the dressing, the cranberry sauce, the turkey breast, asparagus on this sheet. And now we're just gonna fold the sheet over on one end. And then I wanna gently press and roll to the other side. Voila, it's like a giant burrito. Now we want to clamp the ends. Don't want anything oozing out. And then we're going to tuck those under. That's one. Okay, now to give it a little bit of a decoration and make sure that it stays put together, we have some cooking twine that we're gonna wrap around it so everything stays in place. We want it to be decorative as well as help with keeping everything assembled. So I'm gonna do kind of like a little bit of a spiral design. There we go. And we'll lay that on our baking sheet and get ready to assemble our next one. And there we have it. Our 2 turkey Wellingtons all wrapped up, ready to go. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put little slits in the top because we want that steam to escape. If not, they're going to explode and there's not gonna be anything beautiful on the table. So we're gonna do the little slits, and then we have our egg wash. I have the oven already going because it's been going all day. The potatoes are still in there roasting, and I can smell them. They smell amazing. It's gonna be delicious. So we're gonna get these in there. I'm gonna freshen up, put some last minute touches on plating all the food and getting ready for our guests. So let's get these going and we will check in a bit. Are you ready for this? Look at these potatoes. Oh, beautiful. Look at that cream just bubbling. Now I'm going with an Italian cheese shredded blend. I'm gonna put a little bit of this right on top and stick it back in the oven to toast and get that crunchy, cheesy, ooey gooiness right on top. Look at that. Oh my God, so yummy. And there we have it, my friends, the turkey Wellington. Look how beautiful and golden the pastry puff just rose up perfectly. Obviously, some juices did ooze out, but we have the cranberry in there, we have the dressing in there, we have those beautiful turkey breasts that were marinating overnight. There's a little asparagus in there. It's all wrapped up. I can't wait for these to cool off a little bit so I can slice them open and show you what's inside. So
Dinner party's just starting. Everybody's getting here and we're getting ready to roll. Everything looks absolutely beautiful. I'm so happy to share this moment with you. If I forget to tell you at the end of all this, happy Thanksgiving. Have a wonderful, wonderful fall and holiday season this year. And don't forget, like and subscribe and share my videos with your friends. Give me your feedback. Tell me your stories. I would love to share those moments and those memories with you because that's what it's all about. That's why we call this Don't Just Cook, because it's not just about cooking, it's about sharing. Take care, and until next time, remember, don't just cook.
Let's take a look and see just how yummy this turkey Wellington came out. The outside pastry puff is so buttery and flaky, and it's not heavy at all. It cooked up beautifully inside. You have that tender turkey, the asparagus, the little sweet hints of cranberry and the stuffing binding it all together. And of course, we can't forget that Basque cheesecake. This was truly the star of the evening. Beautiful.